There's something most men never understand about what draws a woman closer, and it has nothing to do with what you buy her, how often you text her, or how many times you prove your feelings. The truth lives in a place most men refuse to look, buried beneath layers of performance and effort and desperate attempts to be chosen. What women want isn't hidden. It's written in every glance that lingers too long, every conversation that shifts when you walk into the room, every moment she creates just to be near you without reason. But here's the part that destroys comfortable illusions. She doesn't want your attention. She wants your absence of need for hers. You've been taught backwards. You've been told that love is pursuit, that desire requires effort, that attraction grows from investment. So you show up consistently, you communicate your interest clearly, you make yourself available and present and eager. And with every gesture of devotion, you watch her interest fade like morning fog under harsh sunlight. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing everything. The man who tries to prove his value has already announced he questions it. The man who seeks validation through her approval has already placed her above himself. And women don't climb down ladders to find partners. They reach for what stands above them, untouchable and unmoved by their presence. If you've been watching this channel, you already know I don't traffic in comfortable lies or gentle encouragement. I show you the mechanisms beneath the surface, the psychological architecture that determines who holds power in attraction and who surrenders it without realizing. And before we go deeper into what women actually choose when they're free to choose anything, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, because this kind of clarity doesn't come from places that need to make you feel good about your current strategy. It comes from understanding what actually works when you strip away the fantasy. Women are drawn to the man who exists independent of their existence, not the man who ignores them as strategy, but the man who genuinely has a life so compelling that her presence becomes optional rather than central. This isn't cruelty, this is gravity. You don't create attraction by leaning in. You create it by leaning back into your own world with such intensity that she has to decide whether to enter it or watch from the outside. The man who waits for her text is already positioned beneath her. The man who forgets to check his phone because he's absorbed in his mission has created a question in her mind that she cannot stop trying to answer. Most men hear this and perform indifference. They play distant, they delay responses, they manufacture scarcity like a marketing campaign, and it fails immediately because women can smell performance from 1,000 yards away. The difference between genuine self-containment and tactical withdrawal is simple. One requires no thought because it's your actual state. The other requires constant monitoring because you're managing an image. The man who's pretending to be busy is still oriented toward her reaction. The man who's actually busy has forgotten she's waiting. One is a strategy, the other is a reality. And only reality generates the response you're looking for.
Here's what happens in her mind when she encounters a man who doesn't reorganize his existence around her presence. First, confusion. She's accustomed to men who accelerate toward her, who compete for her time, who adjust their schedules and priorities to accommodate her availability. When you don't, her initial assumption is that you're not interested. But then she notices something. You're warm when you're together. You're present and engaged. You enjoy her company without clinging to it. And this creates a dissonance she can't resolve. If you like her, why aren't you chasing? If you're not chasing, why do you seem so content? The only explanation that makes sense is that you have something more important than her attention, and that possibility is more attractive than any compliment you could offer. This is where most men sabotage themselves without realizing it. They taste a moment of her increased interest and immediately convert it into pursuit. She starts reaching out more, so they increase their availability. She expresses vulnerability, so they rush to provide reassurance. And in doing so, they answer the question she was asking herself. They prove that her attention is the thing they were waiting for all along. The tension collapses, the mystery resolves, and she loses interest, not because she's shallow or confused, but because you've removed the one element that made you different from every other man she's encountered. Understand this clearly. Women don't want to be the answer. They want to be the question. They don't want to be your destination. They want to wonder if they're even on your map. The moment you make her the center, you've positioned yourself at the edge. The moment you make her optional, you become central to her thoughts. This isn't manipulation. This is how desire actually functions beneath the romantic narratives we've been sold. Desire moves toward what it cannot fully possess. Certainty kills it. Availability drowns it. Distance feeds it like oxygen feeds fire. Now stay with me here, because this is where it gets deeper. What women want, more than money, more than status, more than physical attraction, is the feeling that they've gained access to something rare. Not rare because it's withheld artificially, but rare because it's genuinely selective. Every woman has been pursued by men who would date anyone who said yes. Every woman has been wanted by men who were just lonely or bored or looking for validation. That kind of attention has no value because it's not a choice, it's a default. But when a man who clearly has options, who clearly has a life that matters to him, who clearly doesn't need her to feel complete, when that man chooses to spend time with her, the value of that time multiplies exponentially. This is why the neediest compliments fall flat, while the casual observation from a man who barely seems to notice her creates an earthquake in her mind. It's not about the words, it's about the frame they emerge from. A compliment from a man who's trying to win her approval is weightless. An offhand comment from a man who's already won his own approval carries the weight of truth. She doesn't want to be told she's beautiful by someone desperate for her to stay. She wants to be seen by someone who would be fine if she left.
If you're still watching, hit that like button, because what I'm about to tell you is something most men never learn even after decades of confusion. The power in attraction doesn't come from what you give, it comes from what you don't need to receive. The man who needs her validation is in her debt before the relationship even begins. The man who's already validated by his own standards enters as an equal or above. And women are biologically wired to submit to what they perceive as higher value, not in a degrading sense, but in the sense that they're drawn to what challenges them, what makes them reach, what they're not entirely sure they can keep. You cannot negotiate desire. You cannot convince someone to feel attraction through logic or consistency or proof of worthiness. Attraction is a response to perceived value, and perceived value is always relative to scarcity and self-possession. The man who's always available is communicating low demand. The man who's selectively available is communicating high demand. And human beings, especially in matters of attraction, want what others want. We desire what appears desired. We chase what appears to be moving away. We lose interest in what chases us. So what does this look like in practice? It means you build a life so engaging that her presence enhances it, but her absence doesn't diminish it. It means you develop standards that aren't negotiable just because she's attractive. It means you're willing to walk away from situations that don't serve you, even when walking away means losing her. And paradoxically, this is what makes her fight to keep you, not your pursuit, your willingness to stop pursuing. The men who succeed with women aren't the ones who do the most, they're the ones who require the most. They have standards, they have boundaries, they have a life that was already full before she entered it. And when she's with them, she's aware that she's competing not with other women necessarily, but with his mission, his purpose, his commitment to becoming the man he's designed to be. That competition is what keeps her invested. Remove it, and you remove the tension that attraction requires to survive. Think about the moments when you felt most attracted to someone. I guarantee it wasn't when they were begging for your attention. It was when they were absorbed in something else, when they were laughing with other people, when they were so present in their own experience that you had to work to get them to notice you. That's not accident. That's the fundamental structure of desire. We want what's just beyond our reach. We lose interest in what's always within our grasp. Women are no different. They say they want a man who's consistent, available, communicative, and they do want those things,
but only from a man who's already established himself as valuable, independent of their input. Consistency from a high-value man is reassuring. Consistency from a man who has no other options is suffocating. Availability from a man with a full life is a gift. Availability from a man with nothing else to do is a burden. The behavior is identical. The frame determines the response. This is why you see women stay with men who treat them questionably while leaving men who worship them. It's not that they enjoy being treated poorly, it's that the man who treats them poorly is communicating through his actions that he doesn't need them, which makes them want to prove their value to him. The man who worships them is communicating that he's already decided they're the prize, which removes any challenge or uncertainty. And without challenge or uncertainty, there's no pursuit. Without pursuit, there's no emotional investment. Without emotional investment, there's no bond.
Before we continue, take a second and drop a comment below telling me if you've ever experienced this dynamic in your own life. Have you noticed that the less you chased, the more you were chased? That the moment you stopped caring whether she stayed is the moment she decided she couldn't leave? Because once you see this pattern clearly, you can't unsee it, and it changes everything about how you move through relationships. Here's the shift that needs to happen in your mind. Stop thinking about what you can do to make her like you. Start thinking about whether she's earning your continued presence. Stop asking yourself if you're good enough for her. Start asking if she's compatible with the life you're building. Stop trying to be chosen, start doing the choosing. This isn't arrogance, this is the psychological position that generates attraction. The selector is always more valuable than the selected. The person with options is always more desirable than the person without them. And you cannot fake options. You can only build a life so full that options become inevitable. Women test men constantly, not out of malice, but out of biological necessity. They need to know if you're solid or if you're performing solidity. They need to know if your confidence is real or if it crumbles under pressure. They need to know if you'll maintain your frame when she pushes against it or if you'll fold to keep the peace. And every time you compromise your boundaries to make her happy, every time you change your plans to accommodate her moods, every time you apologize for things you didn't do wrong, you're failing the test. Not because she wants you to be rigid, but because she needs to know you can't be moved by emotional turbulence. The man who's moved by every emotional wave is a man who will be swept away by life's challenges. The man who remains steady while acknowledging her feelings without absorbing them is a man she can trust to lead when things get difficult. This is what she's testing for. Not whether you love her, she assumes you do if you're still around. She's testing whether you love yourself enough to maintain your position even when she's pulling you toward hers. And here's the part that sounds harsh but is actually the deepest form of respect you can offer. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let her go. Not as punishment, not as strategy, but as truth. If she's not meeting your standards, if she's not investing in the relationship, if she's keeping you optional while you're making her a priority, the loving response is to release her to find someone who's a better match while you do the same. Most men don't do this because they're afraid they won't find better, and that fear is exactly what keeps them trapped in dynamics that drain them. The man who knows his value doesn't cling to relationships that don't serve him. He doesn't try to convince someone to appreciate him. He simply moves forward, and the right people either keep up or they don't. This isn't coldness, this is clarity. And clarity is magnetic in a world full of people who are confused about what they want and terrified to lose what they have. So, what do women want more than money? They want the feeling that they've accessed something that isn't available to everyone. They want to know that your time with them is chosen, not given by default. They want to feel that if they left, you'd be sad but not destroyed, that you'd miss them but not lose yourself, that your life would continue in its trajectory with or without them, which makes their decision to stay a real decision, rather than your emotional dependency.
This is the frame that changes everything. You're not trying to get her. You're living your life and inviting her to join it if she's compatible. You're not asking for permission to be yourself. You're being yourself and seeing if she fits. You're not waiting for her to decide your worth. You've already decided it, and now you're discovering if she's worth your continued investment. Most men never reach this point because they've been conditioned to believe that love means sacrifice, that relationships require compromise of self. that being a good partner means putting her needs above your own. And all of that is true in the context of a healthy relationship between equals, but you cannot build a healthy relationship from a position of inequality. You cannot create lasting attraction from a place of need. You have to become the person who doesn't need the relationship to feel complete first. Then, and only then, can you build something real. The woman who stays with you because you've made yourself indispensable through emotional dependency will leave the moment someone more interesting comes along. The woman who stays with you because you've maintained your independence and she's genuinely chosen to build with you will fight to keep what you've created together. One is staying out of guilt or habit. The other is staying out of desire and respect. You cannot create the second dynamic by performing the behaviors of the first. If you've made it this far into the video, you're clearly serious about understanding this at a level most men never reach. Make sure you watch until the very end, because I'm going to tie this together in a way that will shift how you see every interaction you have from this point forward. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do that now, because this channel exists to give you the truth that changes outcomes, not the comfort that keeps you stuck. Here's the final piece. What women want more than anything isn't something you can give them, it's something you have to become. They want a man who's on a path that matters more to him than their approval. They want a man who has a vision for his life that doesn't require their permission. They want a man who will walk away from anything that doesn't align with his values, including them if necessary, because that man is safe to surrender to. That man won't lose himself in the relationship. That man won't become bitter and resentful when he sacrifices his dreams for hers. That man will lead because he knows where he's going, and she can choose to follow or not. This is the masculine frame that attraction requires. Not dominance in the sense of control, but dominance in the sense of self-possession. Not indifference to her feelings, but immunity to being controlled by them. Not absence of care, but presence of boundaries. The man who can hold this frame consistently becomes magnetic, not because he's playing games, but because he's genuinely become someone worth choosing. And the beautiful irony is that the moment you stop needing her to choose you is the moment she can't imagine choosing anyone else. The moment you stop making her the center of your world is the moment she starts fighting for a place in it. The moment you prioritize your mission above her mood is the moment she starts supporting your mission instead of competing with it. This isn't manipulation. This is alignment with how attraction actually functions when you strip away the romantic mythology and look at what consistently produces lasting desire.
So stop performing, stop strategizing, stop trying to figure out what she wants, and become what you're designed to be regardless of her presence. Build something that matters. Pursue excellence in your field. Develop your body, your mind, your skills, your character. Create a life so compelling that her entry into it is a bonus, not a rescue. And watch how the entire dynamic shifts. Watch how she starts pursuing instead of being pursued. Watch how she starts investing instead of receiving. Watch how she starts proving her value instead of testing yours. This is what women want more than money, more than looks, more than status. They want the man who doesn't need them to feel like a man. They want the man who was already complete before they arrived. They want the man who will continue his journey with or without them, because that man is the only one worth following. That man is the only one who can lead. And deep in her biology, beneath all the cultural conditioning and romantic narratives, she knows that's the man she's been searching for all along. The question isn't what women want. The question is whether you're willing to become it. Not by changing who you are to fit her expectations, but by becoming so fully yourself that her expectations become irrelevant. That's the shift. That's the answer. That's what separates the men who are chosen from the men who do the choosing. And once you cross that line, you never go back, because you finally understood that the power was never in getting her to want you. The power was always in wanting yourself enough that her wanting you becomes optional instead of essential. If this resonated with you, leave a comment and let me know what part hit hardest. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and I'll see you in the next one, where we go even deeper into the psychology of power, attraction, and masculine frame. Until then, stay focused on your path. Everything else will follow.